Welcome to another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. And I'm so excited because I have one of my clients and now friends, Randale Campbell, with us today. So, Randale, maybe what we can just start with is maybe just let everyone know a little bit about what you do professionally. You have a lot of responsibilities, you wear a lot of hats. Then maybe you could just kind of let our audience know, what do you do for work and a career?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me. For work, actually, so what I do is I manage a family company. We build and install in-ground swimming pools, vinyl liner pools. I've been doing this for the last 18 years. It was supposed to just be a fun summer job, but like here I am, but working with my family. It's been amazing. Other than that, I co-own Suit Staffing, which is a staffing agency that specializes in staffing for all different kinds of events, brands. We do a little bit of everything, which is amazing. So that's it was a part-time but full-time job. And then on the side, I also have started a beading company. So I bead hand-beaded earrings designed by my sister. So that also keeps me very busy.
Yeah, it sounds like you have no shortage of ambition here.
I
Lots
don't
of
think so.
part-time things that have turned into full-time big things and successful things, which is great. So, but I know I wanted to lay the framework for that because I want people to know that you are someone who's extremely busy, who has had a lot on your plate. And what's actually really interesting about this, and obviously probably divine timing, is when we started working together, you were actually in the peak of your busy season because obviously with CamMac, with the pools, that's obviously very seasonal. And even with Stutes, with the staffing, like obviously more events in our part of the world happen in the summertime. So really summer is the peak, like the height of like all your busyness. And that's actually when we started working together, was at that time. So I want to ask you, before we started working together, what were you experiencing? Because I think most of the audience knows I work with executives and business owners who are dealing with burnout. But what were you experiencing at that time before we started working together?
Before we started working together, to be honest, I had I had been diagnosed with IBS. So I was having crazy stomach issues, acid reflux. I was feeling horrible. I had to be very specific on what I was eating, but my major trigger was stress. But I was jumping into all these roles that were high stress events or different hats to wear. So it was that part was pretty hard on me. I also suffered from, I was getting headaches, my brain fog. I was tired. I was so burnt out. I was watching all of your Instagram stories before I contacted you too to be like, is she talking to me through Instagram? Like, why is she saying, like, why is she talking about me like that? Through the burnout, because I truly like felt exhausted. I couldn't do anymore. I was irritable. I was just not fun to be around. I was never present.
And because you had so much on your plate, like what were your coping mechanisms, or like just how did you get through the day, like knowing that that's how you're feeling, your energy was down, your physical body was like screaming at you that I'm burnt out, yet it's not like you could just stop working. So like at that time, what were you doing to get through the day, or how did you get through your days?
So for my energy through the day, I was living off energy drinks. Like I had one a day for sure, always. I was going to the gym or trying to go to the gym as my just to cope with things. But whenever I didn't make it to the gym, I would then beat myself up because now I didn't make it to the gym and I'm not taking care of myself. Um, that's about, I don't know, there wasn't much that I was doing, maybe like outlets with my friends and talking to people and stuff, but it was like no one could, everyone's thing was just stop what you're doing and just sit at home and relax, which was not something I could do at the time anyways.
And that's, I'm glad that you brought that up because it's, you didn't have the time to really just sit at home and relax per se, but also what was your resistance towards that? Because I know you, knowing your story, but then also a lot of my clients and probably people listening to this, that idea of sitting still sounds torturous. You know what I mean? On so many levels, from like from a I don't want to lose momentum. I don't want to lose my competitive edge if I slow down, but also just from like literally sitting down makes them feel like they want to die. So like
Yeah.
how
It was
how was that for you?
it was painful for me. Like I always said I don't sit down. Like, well, there's always something to do. I could be cleaning my house, I could be cooking, I could be going to work, I could be checking my emails. There was just no like downtime for myself. I truly don't feel like I was ever taking care of myself like I should have. I was definitely losing my mind a little bit. And when people would tell me to like, oh, well, you control your own schedule, so you can just slow down, you can stop going here or doing this, it just made me mad. I'd be like, no,
Mhm.
actually, I can do a lot more, and I'm going to prove to you I can do a lot more, and I'm going to prove to you that I can make it through this, even though I'm falling asleep everywhere I go and crashing and I'm grumpy and still trying to be like super positive, but trying to like hold it all in and to the point of exhaustion where you're like just a moment alone just sounded like beautiful, but it never happened.
And so that's interesting. So when people told you like, and I get that moment of like, don't tell me what I can do, but that like how did that, like when people said, okay, well you can just sit down or you can just slow down, like did that, what kind of feelings did that bring up within you where you, when you thought about like taking care of yourself? Like was that something that didn't feel natural? Was there some resistance around that?
Yeah, I would 100% say there was resistance to that. I think it was more or less from the feeling of having to people please. It's like as you go, and people are inviting you places and you want to do things, but you want to show up. It was I'd rather just make everyone happy and go places where I people are asking me to go to fulfill like making sure everyone feels wanted and needed in my life when truly I just wanted to sit at home and do nothing, but it just didn't feel right to me during those times. I definitely felt like I was like letting people down if I wasn't everywhere.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought that up, the people pleasing thing, because I think with people who are in positions where they're the boss, you know what I mean, or they're responsible for a team, they're responsible for an organization like you are, like there's obviously this aspect of you have to create order and you have to create structure. And so you have to also know when to say no and make the right calls for the company. Are we doing this? Are we not doing this?
Mhm.
Like saying no is also a part of your job. So there's kind of this aura, I guess, around people who are in executive positions or in the leadership position where it's like, well, they kind of have to lay down the law at times. But there is this very real aspect I find in all of my clients and with me as well previously. It's like this people pleasing aspect, which are kind of opposites. Like you're the person who calls the shots, but then there's something very real inside of you that also feels like you have to be everything for everyone. And, you know, I would assume, and you please let me know, like that was also attributing to how burnt out you were.
Yeah, like you have to be in those roles, you have to be firm, you have to be able to have the respect from people around you, but you also want to give the respect. Like I'm a very caring person, so I'd never like to like let people down. I like to be around people. I am an extrovert. I do like to be surrounded by people all the time. That's normal to me. But I definitely feel in the roles of what I've been doing lately, I needed to be everywhere, but I needed to like see everything and I needed to oversee everything and I needed to make sure it was done a specific way to how I would do it if I was there. When realistically, if you train people the right way and you trust the your staff that you have, that it really takes the pressure from you in those aspects. But I definitely would say, yeah, being a boss is can be tricky. It can be as tricky as you make it, but trying to be present all the time too. There's no balance. You're not going to make everyone happy all the time. And that's was my goal was I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to see me a certain way. I want everyone to like me. I want to be invited everywhere. Even if I don't want to go, I still want the invite. Like I'd invite you. Why didn't you invite me?
So then with your burnout, would you say that it was more of all the things on your plate that were burning you out? Or was it more of what you just alluded to, kind of that internal conflict of being like, well, I want to be everywhere all the time and I have to do everything a certain way and I have to oversee everything. Like, what do you think attributed to your burnout more? The things that were actually on your plate or the way you felt like you had to handle them?
I would say the way I felt like I had to handle them. Um, the stuff that was on my plate was all manageable. I have great my co-partner suit staffing, she's amazing. Our manager in Calgary, she's amazing. They're all so great. I work with my family who, if they don't have patience with me, I don't know who will. So I'm surrounded by love and by people who actually care about me in business. So at that time, I truly believed it was my business that was giving me the burnout. I thought like, oh, I'm just putting too many things on my plate. I'm doing too much. When realistically, it was my expectations I was giving myself of I need to be here. I need to show up for this. Like people aren't going to think I care about them if I'm not there. So if I don't go and make an appearance, I'm going to feel bad. Or if I don't go out of my way to do all these things and go to all these places and be at my job and do that and like not take care of myself, that it was more important that everyone felt good than it was for me to feel good.
How was it switching? Because when you say like the expectations I had on myself, I don't want our audience to think that that means you were like letting yourself off the hook of like still running the business to a certain
Hmm.
standard, right? Like there was
Yeah.
still a certain standard you had to uphold, but maybe just dive into like what that shift was for you as far as like shifting the expectations, like what that was for you specifically. And then I guess were you scared to make those shifts? Like what was that process like for you?
I would say definitely how regulating my system was definitely a huge shift for me. Regulating my system, and like we always joke around a lot, but the craziest part was learning how to breathe because I truly did not know how to breathe. I was not breathing. We learned that. Doing my like daily practices for the breathing was a huge shift for me. My anxiety was dropped so much just from doing that. Regulating my nervous system, learning my like fight and flight, how I react to everything, how my ego was literally in full control
Mm.
at those points, because my shifts from between me when we first started to me now, I definitely like my IBS is a lot better.
Mm.
Everything feels a lot better.
And even just like let's talk about just like, you know, your breathing for instance, because that sounds almost so trivial, like you learned how to breathe, like, but for our audience listening, maybe just explain how the breath, what you noticed before versus with
Okay.
your breath versus when you started to incorporate the breath work every day, how that was actually making an impact on you physically and then actually in your performance as well.
So with my breathing beforehand, I would find myself holding my breath quite often. Like every time I was upset, every time I was like deep in thought, I was always holding my breath. And I feel like my breaths were very shallow. They weren't, I wasn't getting oxygen to my brain or something. I don't know what happened there. But as I started doing the breathing techniques that you are amazing in everything that you do teaching me. I was able to actually realize that the deep breaths I wasn't truly getting. Like for now when I breathe, I feel it in my lower belly. Like I feel it like my lungs expanded during it. Like it's the wildest feeling to know that like my breaths were so small, so shallow. I was holding them. I was creating tension in my stomach, which was making my stomach issues even worse compared to how I can breathe now and fully feel it all the way to my belly button and inhale, exhale, like night and day, game changer. And it was one of like smallest things. And I always felt like I was always like, why am I holding my breath? Like you just get so used to it. It's like I've done it my whole entire life kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like it's so unconscious. Do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't even realize how I often say, like, for anyone watching this on video, like, you're like walking around with clenched fists and high shoulders, and again, holding your breath. And we don't even realize that that's what we're doing because it's just become so normal for us. And especially when we're in the mode, right? When we're doing all the things and getting things done. And it's almost like, it almost feels like being productive requires you to not breathe and requires
Mm-hmm.
you to have anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And we get so programmed that this is the only way we feel like we're productive. And then going
Mm-hmm.
back to your point earlier, when it's like the idea of slowing down and sitting still, it feels so foreign and almost threatening to our nervous system because that's not what we associate with productivity.
Yeah. Well, it's wild to think. Like, I honestly look back all the time at that question you asked the first, like our first meeting, when you were like, how much time per day do you spend by yourself, alone, with no distractions or anything? And literally, when you said that to me, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I lied, because I was like, oh, maybe like half an hour or something. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, 4 minutes, maybe five. That's about it. What do you mean? I was like, I wasn't truly like being my genuine self. I wasn't truly like feeling my genuine self. My burnout was just straight exhaust. Like, I was just here. I'm put a smile on. Like, this is great. Like, I'm on barely any sleep. I've had caffeine all day, which I've learned is actually complete opposite of what I should be doing. I would do the high intensity workouts, be like, I'm just gonna go to a boot camp and kick my butt. This will make me feel better, after just like shaking because you're so full of like the adrenaline and the fight and flight and the anxiety. And I was like, I'm doing it all wrong.
But that is, again, that is so, but that's what the nervous system does. If you are someone who responds with fight or flight, I always use the example of, it's like being on the red line, right? Like, of a car driving on the red line. And so when that is your comfort zone, it just because something, your nervous system doesn't care if you're happy, your nervous system cares that you're safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for many of us, if we've lived in fight or flight for most of our life, that's where the nervous system feels like it's most safe. So we're in fight or flight at work, then we want to go work out, so we stay in a high intensity workout like you just said, because that keeps us on the red line. Then we can't sit down for too long because that keeps us on the red line. But the stories we attach with that are, we're lazy, or we feel guilty, or what is taking care of ourselves, that's selfish. Like, there's just all these mind games that then come up from our subconscious because our nervous system is so used to being in hyperactive mode all the time. But that's what inevitably leads to burnout, right?
Yeah, it's just like go, 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 like crazy. Like, I'd say the biggest thing that I knew I needed to start was when I would get to the point where I was like, go, 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 go all day. And I'd be like, so like, I could do this. I'm going to do all these chores at home. I'm going to do this. And then Marcus would just come to give me a hug, but I'd be annoyed. I was like, why are you
Mm.
hugging me? Like, I have stuff to do. Like, get on my way. Like, move. I'd be like, oh, when really, like, what is like 10 seconds of just like embracing the one person that loves you, who wants you to like sees that you're like in this crazy mode and you're going 100 miles an hour and your brain's all over the place, and just wants to like settle you down for those 10 seconds, and you're annoyed with them. That's what I do. I was like, I am at a whole other level of burnout that I don't want to be here.
Wow, that is really huge what you just said, because so many people would just bypass that. Do you know what I mean? And just be like, "What's the big deal? I'm busy, like, it's just a hug." But that is such an aha moment for you to
Mhm.
realize, like, wow, if I don't even want my spouse to hug me for 10 seconds, like, something needs to be something needs to be fixed here, you know?
I was like, I love hugs. And I was like,
Yeah.
why am I so agitated? What is wrong with you? Snap out of it.
No, but that's huge. And so that leads me to my next question, is like, from the work we've done, what is the biggest change you've noticed? Let's start with professionally, like,
Okay.
what have you noticed? And then personally, how has it affected your life?
Okay. Yeah, professionally, I would say with my staffing company, I've definitely been able to step back a little bit, but in a positive way, where I'm not working 24/7. I'm not bugging Hillary 24/7. I'm not stressed, like high strung when things pop up or things are happening. I'm able to flow with it, I would say, a lot better. Where before I'd be like, okay, email comes in, that email needs to be answered in the next like hour, or they're not going to know what we're doing. Oh, it's like 9 o'clock at night. I need to be invoicing this, or messaging one of the girls this, or someone on the team this. I honestly, I'm able to have like a quiet time. Everything seems a lot more chill, a lot more relaxed. So I would say that. And then with Kamak, I would say, because that it is a dealing with swimming pool company, and with the amount of clients that we have, we've been around for so long. We're almost hitting 50 years. Our clientele is amazing, but we do run into issues. We do run into people who want things are done now, who are super demanding. I'm able to be a lot more patient, instead of getting agitated or letting someone like ruin my day by getting mad because we just can't make it that day or something like that. I'm able to definitely take it on a lot better. I feel like I'm treating people at work a little bit better. I know you're gonna have clashes and talks with people. It's never gonna be perfect, and I'm always but now I'm able to actually, when I do have discussions and they don't go the right way, I am able to look back, realize what between my ego and my intuition and my feelings, and digest everything a lot properly, instead of jumping to conclusions and just being angry all the time. I'd say those are the biggest things
And
in those.
and and with that, how have you noticed your productivity shift in both those areas? Because what it sounds like to me is you've kind of been able to like surrender a little bit more
Mhm.
and just kind of be in flow and be more present with both companies, which is great. But with that, have you noticed your productivity change at all?
I would say my productivity has probably gone up just even a little bit from what I was doing. I would say I'm able to actually set aside times and dedicate times to get things done quicker, and actually, I would say less errors, because that
Mm.
happens. Less issues of less rushing and everything too. So I would say my productivity has been a lot better. I've been able to get a lot more beading done, which is what I really wanted to spend a lot of spare time doing too, which I have more of these days. So
And before we get to the personal stuff, like I'm curious if I was to tell you at the beginning that taking care of yourself more and taking more time to understand yourself, would you have thought that would lead to being more productive? You probably would have maybe been like, okay, yeah, I'll maybe feel a little bit better, but do you think that would have actually led to an increase in productivity?
I knew it would make me feel better. I knew for sure you make me feel better. As far as productivity, I wasn't sure, because I felt like I was, yeah, it was a tricky balance, because I was like, with productivity, I feel like I'm getting a lot done, but and I could take on more if I needed to, but I would honestly say no, I didn't believe I would actually increase my productivity that much. I thought I would just make myself feel a lot better, but the fact that I have increased my productivity is amazing. Like, it honestly makes me feel so good and so much more relaxed with what I'm capable of doing.
And I'm so glad you shared that because I think that's what people, again, have this internal conflict. Because most of my clients are high performing, high producing people. So they're like, you're going to get more out of me. Like, like not possible. I'm already doing a great job kind of thing. But B, when they think about doing more, they usually equate that with being more burnt out,
Hmm.
using up more energy. Where am I going to get the time to be more productive? Where am I going to get the brain capacity and just where am I going to get the energy period to be more productive? I think that's the
Yeah.
first thing they go to. And so hearing you express that, like, hey, actually, taking care of myself not only made me feel better, it actually kicked up a notch that I didn't know I could go to
Hmm.
is so important because it's showing how if we just redirect our energy resources and we are more I don't want to say strategic, but more intentional with how we're using energy. And we're also not wasting unnecessary energy in the background, worrying about things, putting extra pressure on ourselves, having internal conflict about things. When we can resolve those things, it actually frees up so much energy. So then you can be more productive.
Well, it frees up my brain fog, like the amount of like just my head was exploding. I just had way too much going on in my brain, and it just felt like when you were getting something done, you were just quickly like just getting it done, which, like I said, leads to errors along the way, or issues too. But now I'm actually able to be like present and get things completed, and it's it's a brand new feeling. It's honestly so nice.
Amazing. Okay, and then personally, and I want to ask you this question because again, starting this journey with people, I don't think people realize that there's any personal benefit that will come out of it because it's kind of not the focus of what we usually come in with.
Hmm.
But I'm curious to hear, how have your personal relationships shifted since we started doing this work together?
I truly felt that it wasn't going to be like so much of a shift with my personal relationships, when I can honestly say how it personally affected me has been huge compared to business aspect. Like, I thought a lot of my burnout was because of my business, but truly it was my personal relationships, issues, my past, a lot of going on with that. Personally, so much has changed. I feel like I'm present. That's like the biggest thing. I truly want to be able to hang out with my spouse. I want to hang out with my love and enjoy our time together instead of being on my phone. I feel like that has improved, and I think there's still more improvement for that, of course. When I go hang out with my friends, I'm actually picking the places that I want to go rather than the places that I felt like I had to be at. I'm now at places where I want to be at. So I'm actually enjoying myself. I'm having a good time. I'm getting so much more sleep and literally feel so much better with that. I rarely drink energy drinks anymore. Once in a blue moon kind of thing if I've got a long day of double shifts going on. But I would say the caffeine intake has decreased significantly, but I don't get those like tired, I'm gonna die around lunchtime anymore. I have a good bedtime. Now my body knows if I'm like not at home at a certain time, my energy is just like meow. But then I wake up and I'm like, I'm ready to go. I can like jump out of bed. I can even like get out of bed before my second alarm, which is huge because usually you just keep pressing that 10 minutes over and over again. Now I just literally, first alarm goes off, maybe like 5 6 minutes later I'm like out of bed.
That's huge. And what about your relationships, like with your spouse? Like, any big changes you've noticed there, or like big improvements you guys have had since doing this work?
Yeah, I feel like it's like a deeper connection because I'm able to explain things to him. One of my biggest issues that I had was every time I was upset, every time I get mad or frustrated, I shut down. I just completely go quiet, don't want to talk about it, don't want to hear any bad news, anything like that. Where now I feel like I'm definitely able to open up a little bit more and explain, this is what hurt my feelings, and these are the reasons why I'm triggered from what you're saying and what's going on in this situation. And I feel like it's been reciprocated really well because he's the same point where he feels more comfortable to discuss more how he feels, and we're able to like move on from things, and we're able to chat about different discussions where I'm like, I hate debating before, like I'm always right and everyone nah. Where now I'm like, I can understand, and I can understand people, like the ego or the inner child in everyone. And it makes me feel so much better that I'm able to actually understand why I feel a certain way, why those triggers come up, process those emotions. When bad memories pop up, I'm able to say, like, it happened, and I'm able to actually feel good internally about myself on a regular basis, which is a huge step for me every day. I'm getting better with my words. It's a work in progress still.
You're doing great right now. So that's good. You're doing great.
But I would say it is it's gonna be like, this isn't just like this is going to be continuing, and I have to keep doing my work to get to where I need to be, because it's only going to strengthen us. It truly is. And I've already seen a difference in the last 3 months with myself, with my relationships, how I'm treating people, how people are treating me, like the opportunities that are coming up. Like, it's just like an energy swap, to be honest.
And I'm so glad you touched on that, because again, I think we live in this society right now where we're so used to having, we think that if we want to fix whatever's going on, we have to start with the exterior. So maybe that means quitting a job or starting something new or leaving a relationship, or
Hmm.
it's we're very programmed to fix the exterior first, right? And there is
Hmm.
definitely some merit in doing that, of course. Like sometimes it's not the right relationship, sometimes it's not the right workplace, sometimes it is time to move. Like those, they can be things. But I'm always encouraging of starting from the inside first, because when you put the focus there first, the exterior naturally starts to shift anyways. Like that's just the law of attraction. That's the law of the universe, right? It's like whatever's happening internally, the exterior is just a mirror of that. And when we're constantly putting the energy outside of us to fix that way first, it's almost kind of doing things backwards. And not that we can't get results from it, but it's never lasting because we haven't addressed what's actually going on within first.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm so glad you mentioned that. It's like by really having to shift some of your behaviors, because, you said taking care of you first, putting you first was not a thing you've ever really done, right?
Hmm.
And then having to like just commit to the process with me, which I'm so grateful you did, and just really be like, okay, I'm gonna really look at me first. It's naturally adjusted everything around you anyways.
It has. It's, oh my goodness, it's adjusted. It's so funny because I've actually been asked to be like interviewed a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, just randomly, like at places, and like it's just all these like good things are happening. That I'm just like, whoa, my energy must be swapping. So I always feel like good things happen when your energy is flowing in the right direction. And things are changing and opportunities are coming up. And I honestly feel so much better about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, with my surgery too. So I feel like I'm probably at the best place I've been mentally, if I could say my whole life, because I
Oh,
just never understood the whys. Like I always knew I wanted to do better. I wanted better. I always am on the hunt to figure out how can I feel better? What things can I do? Like, is it a nutritionalist? Is it a psychiatrist? Like, what is it? Until I met Mintu. Those deep talks and those deep like emotions and those like digging deep into like me personally was what opened my eyes to now, like any conversation that I have. Like, I'm not perfect, obviously. Things are, your ego's still gonna jump in there and attack you and everything. But I'm able to like step aside a little bit and be like, okay, why, like, do you need to feel validated for this, or this person just saying this because they need to feel validated, and not take things so personally. um where, yeah, it's a whole new world.
a whole new world. I remember when we first started working together, within like I think the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're like, okay, I think there's light at the end of this tunnel. I'm like, I promise you there is. Okay, just trust me. I promise you there is. So it's nice to see you're like, yeah, we're here.
I'm like, whoa, oh, I'm
Yeah.
so sad.
Okay, so just a couple questions I want to ask you before we wrap up here. So first thing is, I never asked you this before. Before we started working with each other, was there any hesitancy to start working with me? Because I know you haven't worked with a coach before, but you mentioned like you've always kind of been about like, what else can I do to
Mhm.
grow and evolve? So that's great. But was there any hesitation, truthfully, when it came to thinking if you wanted to go down this journey with me?
Yeah, I would say, like, when I watched all your Instagram videos, that was really honestly game changers, because I was like, okay, she's literally everything she's saying between burnout and how you're feeling. I was like, she's in my brain. It's not stopping. And honestly, the first time we talked and over like our first meeting, I could just tell you were like so genuine and you were so caring. And honestly, I felt like I could trust you with everything off of just one conversation. That as soon as we talked, I was like, yes, this is the journey that I want to take. This is like, I feel like this is the right thing to do. That this, like you, a lot of things that I've been through, you've gone through, we were so much like alike in those aspects. But I could just, yeah, you're just your strength in general and how you just made me feel like I could just sense your energy that I was like, okay, no, 100%, this is what I want to do. Because I was like, yeah, of course, when you jump on a call with someone, you're like, I don't know if this is gonna be right for me. Like, I'm already working like with a nutritionist. Like, what is she gonna like? What can Minh-Thu teach me? But as soon as we started going through things, and then we hit like our actual first session. After that session, I was like, oh my god,
Mind blowing. It's great. It's
like,
great.
oh, you're gonna make me think of all these things. Okay, here we go. We're about
Yeah,
to go on that ride.
oh yeah, it's a ride. It's definitely a ride for sure. Well, that's great, and thank you for those kind words. I really appreciate it. And I guess the other thing I'd want to ask you is for anyone who was in the position that you were in. So people who again probably felt like they had the pressure or feel currently like they have the pressure of the world on them, like they are responsible for so many people,
Mm-hmm.
if you know jobs for people, producing at a high level, their personal life, families, kids, all these things. And they feel like, you know, they question whether they can even fit in time for to work on themselves, essentially, whether that be with a coach, whether that be with me, or just even doing any like doing a deep dive into their journey personally, because that can be really confronting and very
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable. And for people who are kind of type A overachievers, I think sometimes it's easier for us to sweep our personal feelings under the rug and just kind of put our heads down and work and just do what we know works and get it done that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of seeking out help or again working with a coach or just any personal development can feel vulnerable. It can feel like one more thing to add onto their already busy plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyone who might be feeling that way, what advice would you give them as far as taking this journey and going on this ride?
Well, it's a crazy thing to think about, but it just felt like at first I was like, I could tell it was my ego being like, you don't have time for this. This is like so much more to add to your plate. Like, this is that. But I was like, you know what? It was not hard. Like, at first I thought it was going to be really hard, like listening to the videos and going and doing the homework and grabbing my journal and everything. I was like, this is going to take so much time. I don't have time for this. But honestly, each week just got easier and easier and easier to the point where I want to say maybe after like week 4, week 3, actually, I was doing my breathing techniques every morning. So at first I was like, I don't have the time for my breathing techniques. I don't know how I'm going to make 5 minutes count in today. And all of a sudden I was creating a routine. I was like, we're all type A personalities, but we're all able to make our own routines. We all know how to throw things in there that are 5 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour. You can squeeze that into a day. No matter what anyone says, you spend that time on your phone. I was spending probably that hour and a half that we would have been chatting, that we chatted in our video calls. I would have spent on my phone that day, just flipping through Instagram and being like, oh, I'm so busy. Let me answer all these things. And realistically, I wasn't busy. That I was finally actually doing the one thing that I need to for myself instead of numbing my brain to make the time pass and not taking care of myself. If that's the best way I would say to explain it. Like it is obviously it can be done. I've proven to myself that it can be done. I can take the time out. I feel way better. I appreciate like the time. I actually appreciate myself, to be honest, to be able to set all these new, no, I wouldn't say scheduling, but set all these new things that I'm doing each day to make myself feel better. Like, I felt overwhelmed today. I was like, you know what? at 6 o'clock, I'm going to take 5 minutes and turn my breathing on and feel grounded again. And here we are. I feel way better.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think that's so important because again, I think people will think it's too much to add to their plate, but I think what you're telling everyone again is just that like A, you can make the time for it, and B, look at the result that comes from it. It
Oh, it
actually
was
ends up
100%.
freeing up your energy, right?
Mm-hmm. And it honestly, each week got so much easier to do. The first week, you're like, okay, now I'm adding to my plate. This is a lot that needs to be done. But then that week went by and you're like, okay, wait, I'm feeling better. These videos are making sense. On to the next week. And you just keep doing that each week until you're like, okay, no, this is something I truly actually need for myself. Because in order to give everyone else at your workplace or at home or your families or your kids or anything your full attention, if you don't take that time for yourself, you're they're gonna know. They're gonna know just the difference. Like it's just Marcus and I here, but he can tell the difference from where I was then and from where I am here. He can hug me now and I'll fully embrace him and not let him go because I'm like, no, this is great.
Well, I think that is a beautiful place to end our conversation because that just shows how full circle it is. You went from rejecting his hugs to now just fully embracing and accepting him. And people might think that sounds silly, but if you are a very busy, very productive person, you can probably relate to that so much. And it's not because you're a bad person, it's just because we all get stuck in that hamster wheel. So to see you come full circle to this point, Randall, is just really incredible. I'm so grateful that you trusted me to take you on this journey. I think your story is super inspiring, super relatable, and I can't wait for people to listen to this and just learn from you and all the things you've done. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. So happy.